You asked for it, here it comes. They Came From Happily Ever After. My version of They Came From game that takes place in fairy tales and in fairy tale adaptations and stories about people who've been thrown out of Wonderland and the fairy realm and all these interesting places and now living in secluded little town somewhere in North America, or I don't know. There's plenty to choose from. Yeah, this is how I would do this. First off, we need 5 archetypes and there are plenty to choose from. Especially the first one might be changing if I was to actually write this game. But let's start, right? So, the first one is the Enduring. That's a character, a common trope within many fairy tales where the protagonist of the story is very passive and all the events are happening to them. And this very often happens to women in fairy tales, but there are a few other examples. And I was thinking how to make something positive out of this. So this might be characters who just are like story tanks. They can take a lot of beating from the circumstances, but they are also very perseverant, and maybe they are the charmers, maybe they are the social characters who get other people to help them and might have some luck-based powers that helps with getting through the story without being the proactive protagonist. The next one is quite the opposite. It's the Blunder. It's the guy or the girl who's been thrown into the story because they just stumbled into it. They overestimated themselves or the situation. They might be physically very strong and might learn to be less self-absorbed. That's something of an idea that I had, that maybe all these archetypes need to learn something. That might be something that is going to be baked, if I ever was to write this, into the game, that all of them have a set learning goal. Yeah, but the Blunder is your Hans Guck in die Luft and Jack with the bean and giants and stuff. The third option is the Wit. This is the smart guy who is very often superior and teaches the negative characters in their story a lesson. They are very smart. They use a lot of gadgets and tools and maybe some magical items. And yeah, they are often the problem solvers in a strange situation. Another opposite of this coin, so to say, is the Trespasser. That's also a clever character, but they are here because they break the rules. They overstep boundaries. They know the dark secrets and employ magic. There can be villains. They can be dark helper characters. They might be people who ended up in the story because they broke the rules and now have to learn something about maybe boundaries. I'm very fond of that one. And the last one is the Beast. It's also an umbrella for, of course, your big bad wolves and your dragons, but also maybe animal companions. People who run more on their instinct, and yeah, that's 5 archetypes. And we are asked to bring 3 cinematics. The rule of 3 is very important. The first one is a quick trip to hell. Costs 1 rewrite, and in fairy tales, there are sometimes moments where the protagonist has to go to hell, and they just go. They have to ask the moon or the sun a question, and so they just walk over there. They might just be beyond or next door to the kingdom stables, you know. It's just around the corner, and there is no time spent going there. The people just end up in hell or in heaven, for what that matters. And they're just there. And so you just spend one rewrite and you just end up in a completely different location. Probably one that didn't exist in the story before. It uses the story trope of no travel time, just being in a strange place, which I very love about fairy tales. Then the next one is Deathly Scenery, and this is more about the movie production side of fairy tale movies. 2 rewrites, and not only the stories can be pretty gruesome, also the conditions under which they are made. For example, for two rewrites, you can just drop 2 status effects or fields. I'm not sure how this works in the first They Came From things, but area effects on the scenery. You decide who has been targeted by them, and this can be like asbestos snow or certain lightning situations that cause seizure, or for some mist, dry ice has been used, and now people are stuck freezing to it and have frost burns. This kind of shit that happened. I made 1 or 2 examples up, but I'm pretty sure there's more if you look into that. And then I have another one, once again with feeling. 3 rewrites, and this is your carte blanche for any situation. A character just breaks into song and commands nature and magic and people and everything, the entire scenery, to go along the music and be a jolly good friend and solve the problem, kill the bad guys or throw them off the bridge, whatever. Whatever the opposition was, they are defeated. Whatever the obstacle was, it is removed. Whatever the riddle was, it is solved. The king is swayed. There are no problems left within this scene because of a song and dance sequence. And the extra one, because we are beyond the happily ever after, and we broke the rule of 3, is creative adaptations. A certain mouse empire is very prominent in this, but if you go back to the Brother Grimms, who collected a lot of German fairy tales, you notice these are also just adaptations. They collected these from women, especially French immigrants who came from French nobility and had their own fairy tales, because they contain a lot of fairies. French fairy tales are a lot about fairies. And already the Brother Grimms changed a lot of stuff according to the audience, as did the Mouse Empire and other people who are retelling fairy tales. In Germany, we have like a Sunday morning fairy tale each Sunday, which is done by a completely different company, or Czech fairy tales, and there's a ton out there, and all of them tell this story differently. And this cinematic allows you to basically discard the old director, set up a new one, which means your director of the game is changing directions. You're not throwing the person out. And the game effect is that on a dice roll, that after all the hits have been applied and there's still complications active, you just get to swap these complications for whatever you want. Have the story go into a completely different direction. So you might have noticed I might have a fable, so to say, for fairy tales. I can't help it. So this is a longer video, but maybe there was something fun for you in there. See you around.